Okay, we're going to try this again. I had some technical difficulties on that last one. I don't know if anybody tried to join after I went live a minute ago, but I'm back now. Welcome to Midweek Musings here at Trinity Heights United Methodist Church in Newton, Kansas. I am Kent Little, lead clergy here at the church. It's good to have you with us. If you're joining us live, if you're joining us later on in the day, it's good to have you do that as well. Most importantly, it's always good to know there are folks out there who listen and resonate with these moments during the week. I have heard back from a number of people who watch these, and so it's good to know that they're viewed at some point, whether it's just a handful or more than that. Anyway, it's good to have you here with us this afternoon. So here at the church, we're just, it's kind of like this broken record a little bit. Not a lot more is going on since last I saw you last Wednesday. We still have construction going on. We're still hoping that will be wrapped up here pretty quick. I need to wander back there and just see how much progress we are making. Anyway, so we've got that going on in our updating our restrooms. So anyway, getting ready for welcome on Wednesdays. Hopefully we can get that started on the 20th. That's the plan anyway. I think I mentioned that I'm going to try to lead a discussion group on those Wednesdays. So anyway, we have gearing up for the fall. Fall always starts picking up once school starts, and we get our programming going, and it makes for celebratory and busy time here in the church. So I hope you can be a part of that in one way or another. So anyway, so this week, as I ponder the upcoming this upcoming Sunday, dealing with an interesting passage in the Gospel of Matthew. Excuse me. It's a passage where the author has included teachings from Jesus about how we deal. Basically how we deal with conflict, how we deal with persons we disagree with, if we feel like they've wronged us, or vice versa. How do we handle that? How we handle that in the life of the community of faith, how we handle that in the life of the church. There are some, just a side note, there are some scholars who suggest that this teaching in Matthew is perhaps well, they're unsure whether it's actually teaching from Jesus or if it's a teaching that's put into Jesus' narrative by the early church. And the reason for that is it uses the word church. And so there are those scholars who suggest that maybe this is actually from the early church as opposed to from Jesus himself, since the church, so to speak, did not exist when Jesus was alive and when he was teaching. And so there is some question about that. Not that affects the teaching at all, but just some historical context, literary context about whether or not this is actually from the life and ministry of Jesus, or if it came later, and this is an expression of how the church feels like it should deal with conflict among individuals. And rather than putting it in the language that this is from the church, they put it in the language that this is from Jesus. So anyway, just some scholarly considerations there. So anyway, so that in this passage, Jesus talks about when you're in conflict with a person and you can't resolve that, you go to that person and try to reconcile, try to resolve the problem. If that isn't possible, if that doesn't work, then we go. We bring 2 or 3 of other members of the church, of the faith, of the community of faith, with you when you go visit with this person to see if you can't reconcile. And the point of the or at least how I understand it, and other scholars and commentaries understand it. The point of the process is not to prove one right and one wrong. Is not to finally excommunicate someone, but rather it is to bring peace, to find a way to get along. How are we going to get along under the same roof when I feel like you've wronged me, or we have a disagreement so deeply that we can't reconcile? And so the process is about, how do we work through this? How do we resolve this conflict that we have? And so Jesus gives some advice on how to do that. And if you bring 2 or 3 with you, and it can't be resolved then you bring it to the whole church. Church is where they use the language church. You bring it to the community of faith to see if the larger body can help reconcile this. So anyway, so to some degree, the passage is about how we deal with conflict and how we forgive or not persons or entities that we feel like that have wronged us. Forgiveness is can be a kind of what's the right word? A touchy subject. I remember reading a story many years ago about a man who had broke into another man's home and ended up killing the man that owned the home. And the person who did it was convicted of murder and put into prison. And the daughter of the man who had died, who was killed, began visiting this person who was convicted of killing her father. She began visiting him in prison, and ended up forgiving him. And then there was a story written about it, I think in the newspaper, the local newspaper, etc. Anyway, and it was interesting. Then she talked about in the story how once that forgiveness was made public, once people learned that she had forgiven this man for murdering her father, how people treated her. She talked about how she would walk down the street and make eye contact with people she was meeting, and how some people would literally walk across the street so that they wouldn't have to engage her. Forgiveness can be a precarious thing, especially in that sense where obviously some people didn't think she should have done that, as if they had any input into it. Anyway, so forgiveness can be a precarious thing sometimes. So we talk about forgiveness, and I've long said that if I forgive someone, that doesn't necessarily absolve them of any consequences of their actions. I remember when I was serving in church in western Kansas, we had some graffiti on the church. They had taken spray paint and painted on our church sign. They painted on our church van, and the news station of a nearby town came and interviewed me, and they asked me, since this is a church, will you forgive them? And I said yes. I said we would certainly forgive them. And then they asked about, well, if they're arrested, etc., would you still? I said, yeah, I forgive them. I said, but it doesn't absolve them from the consequences of their actions. If they broke the law, then the law is going to require them to have some kind of consequence to what they've done. It doesn't mean I still can't forgive them. And forgiveness also isn't about being a doormat. What's the passage? Actually, I think we deal with that in another week or two in our lectionary, that where Peter, if you remember the story, Peter comes to Jesus and asks him, so if somebody wrongs me, how many times do I forgive them? And Jesus says 70 times 7 or something like that. Anyway, most scholars believe that wasn't meant to be taken seriously. You're not supposed to keep track, but a lot. You're supposed to forgive persons a lot. And like I said, that doesn't mean we're doormats. It doesn't mean that we just continue to forgive and forgive, which we're called to do. And at the same time, I think we need to be wise and not put ourselves in those situations where forgiveness has to present itself again and again and again. So we're wise about the circumstances and the relationships we have, so we don't have to continue to forgive someone for wronging us. Don't put ourselves in that situation where the opportunity to be wronged continues to happen. And so anyway, so it's not we're not doormats. So anyway, it's a topic that if we delve deeply into it, it can be a precarious thing. How do we forgive? How do we live with that? How do we resolve conflict? How do we stay engaged with those we disagree with in order to find resolution, or at least be willing to live under the same roof, so to speak, in a community of faith where there are differing theologies, differing thoughts, differing beliefs, etc. How do we engage one another in a graceful, forgiving posture, and still go about doing the good work that God calls us to do around justice and mercy and compassion and love. It's not an easy task. The Christian faith is not an easy task. Jesus talks about the narrow gate, the broad road, and the narrow gate. And I think a big piece of that narrow gate is how the teachings of Jesus call us to be graceful, to be forgiving, and to be willing to walk together, whether we agree on all things or not, but do the work of justice making, of compassion, of mercy, of care, and grace and love in the world around us. And sometimes that takes forgiveness. I think it was Reinhold Niebuhr who said, forgiveness is the final act of love. And so anyway, so that's what we're going to be wrestling. Well, maybe I should use I language. That's what I'm going to be wrestling with this next Sunday morning as we gather together and deal with this story that Jesus puts forth about how the church, how the community of faith deals with conflict. And I think it's an interesting story. For me, there's kind of a twist to it, and I'm still working on that and thinking about that. And so, if you'd like to know what the twist is, you may need to come to church on Sunday morning. I hope you can if you're nearby and don't have another church community. Please know that you are welcome here at Trinity Heights United Methodist Church in Newton, Kansas. You're welcome here, period. There's no conditions, no exceptions. Everyone is welcome to be appreciated and included and involved in the full life of the church here at Trinity Heights. And so if you're looking for a community faith, we would love to have you here. We have our more traditional structured worship service at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning in the sanctuary. There's a little more informal structure and a little more informal gathering at our second service at 11:15 in the fellowship hall. But whichever one you might decide to come to, just know you're welcome. We'd love to have you here. We'd be glad if you showed up. So anyway, thanks for being here. I hope you're having a great day. It is a little cooler. It was really nice. I think it was like 60 when I walked out of the house this morning. So it's really nice. I don't think it's going to be quite so hot today, though I'm sure we're not done with the hot days. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying your day. I hope you're having a good day. Thanks for being here. And as I always share as we get ready to part, just encourage us always to be a light and love one another, every single other, until there are no others, only one beloved community of all. May it be so. May it be so. Thanks for being here. Goodbye and God bless.